Hello and welcome back to The Drag Detective. I'm Derek and today we are going to be talking about how UK5 might have went if it wasn't rigged. So we've done this game many a time. Y'all know how it works. Before that though, I wanted to let you know that our next video on this channel is going to be something a little bit different, and I want you all to get involved in it. We had some really great design looks this season from our season 16 cast, and we just had some good ones on UK versus the world as well. So I think our next video should be counting down the greatest design challenge looks of all time internationally. To help me with that, I have a Google form in the description where you can vote on your favorites. I gave you like many to choose from, and you can pick what your favorites are from the ones provided. And then next week we'll see what the consensus is and who are some of our top design looks of all time. So once you're done with this video, go to the description, go take that little form, and then we'll find out what happens next week. Okay, UK5. I need to like rewatch more because it's been like so long since this season came out. I needed to like refresh, but I feel like my soul, my brain, and my heart have all combined and formed some amalgamation of like what should have happened. Will people still say I am delusional? Yes, they will. And are they right? Probably, but you all are still here watching anyway, so you must feed you feed into the delusion at least a little bit. Little teeny tiny bit. Quick shout out to Drag Duel contestant Glass Stain, who has their new EP coming out and their single right here coming out next week. So if you listen to gay shit, listen to her gay shit. Okay, let's start off with the premiere episode. It is The Ball. They have to bring 2.5 looks and have to perform on the runway in front of a bunch of international divas. So there's a lot that goes in. Obviously, this is a non-elimination episode. We are just stuck with a top 2. And let's see how things would have shaken out, in my opinion, in my world. So I don't think a ton changes. We have our top 5, and that's it. That's all that there is. And I think that they got a lot of them right. I would switch one of them. I think our eventual winner, Ginger Johnson, did an okay job this episode, as we talked about in the riggory video, which go watch that first because like I'm not going to be repeating stuff from that here. Ginger, I just don't think did super well in the runway aspect. Her looks, the first 2 were like fine. Her third look was very lovely, but I think there was just more consistent queens on the cast than her in this episode. Someone who I understand why they were overlooked, but low-key I still think did well enough to be in the top, and who I would replace Ginger with is Tamara Thomas. Now, her entrance look, super cunty, super stunning, super diva, we love, and then she wore something like really similar for the runway challenge, but again, it was a really good look, it was cute, and she had one of the best performances on the runway. And immediately we see her stand out as like, oh, this girl can perform. This girl has personality. This girl has confidence. And she showed all of that in just this first episode. Now, the third look on its own, just like a photo, it's obviously stunning. There were some issues. It did kind of like, I don't know if it was supposed to like move or something or what, but like it ended up being kind of like wobbly, and it was like wobbling back and forth. So it was a little bit awkward. But she really didn't like let it phase her. Like she still did the runway. She was, holding it a little bit, but that was like a teeny bit awkward. But like, honestly, I think she played it off really well. And I still think with that little wardrobe malfunction that her looks and her personality were top 5 of this episode. She's probably like that 5th spot. She like just kind of like got her way in, but I would still put Tamara in the top. Now, in the actual episode, we saw our top 2 of Cara Melle and Vicky Vivacious. But low-key, I think Vicky should not have been top 2. I think Vicky obviously should have been in the top. Her third look especially. Her third look was so good. It's my favorite iteration of this like genre of British look. Her first 2 looks were both very clean. They were very well, they were polished. But low-key, I don't think they really showed her drag that well. I think from her first 2 looks, I thought she was going to be a pageant queen. Because she just kind of gave that like dynasty kind of vibe, but like as we see in a lot of her looks, she kind of is a little goofball. Like she has a lot of really exaggerated silhouettes, a lot of kind of like out there ideas and concepts, but I would not have gotten that from her first two looks. The third one, yes, that fits her bill like perfectly. But I think among like all the queens, I don't think she sold herself the best. I think she showed much better things later on that gave you more of an idea of what her drag is. And I don't think she performed super well on the runway. She did Sminty Drop's sad twerk, and I was like, oh, she's still doing that. Oh, it's still going on. She's still, oh, okay. Well, RuPaul's laughing, so I guess she doesn't need to switch it up, but she could if she wanted to. I didn't laugh, but RuPaul did, so who cares, I guess. Someone who I think fully 100% slayed this entire episode top to bottom, along with Cara Melle, is Michael Maruli, who I think gets overlooked a little bit in the season until the end where she's kind of like emerges. And I think this episode was like, I was shocked she wasn't top two. Like going in, watching it, I was like, oh, it's gonna be Cara and Michael. Her first look was just like a kind of a standard drag look, but it was very stunning. The club look was like an elevated version of that, and she performed amazingly. She showed great personality on that runway. And then her third look was like, it was like the perfect like mixing of Michael, where she has like classic drag elements to her drag, but also these like new weird fun ideas. And she kind of is always like melding the two of those. And I think this was like a perfect showing for her this episode. Her last runway was one of my favorites. She showed in the confidence, she showed in the personality, she showed in the look, she showed in the makeup. She showed that she was a full package in just this first episode. So I would have put her top two with Cara Melle. So they lip sync to, and I only knew like 3 songs on this season, so I'm gonna be like referencing. They lip synced to Ooh Ah Just a Little Bit by Gina G. Now, as we saw, Cara Melle had this really huge wig headpiece kind of thing, and she was kind of, her full frame of motion was a little bit hindered. So I think she should have, if she was allowed to, switch that up so that she really could like go crazy. And as we saw later in the season, Michael beat Cara later on to a lip sync. So I think because of those two factors, I think Michael would win here. I mean, Michael does really like high energy performances. This is a little high energy song. So I think Michael would win this first episode. Okay, so episode 2 is the design challenge, where they're given a bunch of random PetSmart supplies and they have to make looks out of it. So this episode, it was mostly fair. The real riggory of it had to do with Cara Melle and Tamara Thomas's little argument that I think bled into the placements a little bit. Now, Cara Melle, she wears this parrot look, and obviously the top half is a lot better than the bottom half, but they like read her bottom half to bits when like, I think it's fine. It's just not as exciting, but there's so much going on up here. I kind of don't mind that it just kind of like, you know, settles down a little bit at the bottom and becomes a little bit more subtle. I think the colors are great. The construction is great. She ended up bottom 3. I think that is entirely riggory. I think she was safe as fuck. Now, Tamara, on the other hand, I have trouble with Tamara's look because it's not bad, but it's not enough. And I think that she could have been in the bottom 3 because there was a lot of just like really good looks. Like this was a good design challenge. The flops were flopping, just like the fish in Alexa St. Pete's fishbowl. But for the most part, they all did really well. And so I low-key think Tamara could have been low, could have switched that place with Cara. And I think she could have just been read on like, okay, we know you're beautiful, but we want to see more. Like, this is good. This is fine. It's adequate, but you could have went so much bigger. Look at some of these looks up here. They went crazy. Yours is a little bit plain and not giving UK 5. Like, I feel like she could have gotten that critique. Obviously, she was in the top, which was wild. So we need to fill in that top placement. And I would give it to Kate Butch. I think that Kate did so well. This look is so well constructed. It could look kind of busy. She has a lot going on, but I think that it's so tailored and kind of held back in other places so that it doesn't feel like too much. So I think that she definitely could have been in the top here, and it could have been like a nice little moment of like, oh, hello, Kate Butch. So we were a little bit worried for you in the first episode, but you like really came to play here. But instead, she goes on her little safe streak for the first half of the competition, and that is that. Now, for everyone else, Banksie getting the win, yes. Dedelicious in the top, sure. Bottom 2 of Alexa St. Pete and Miss Naomi Carter, yes. very clear bottom two. We see them lip sync, and Naomi sends home Alexis to Hot in It by Charlie XCX and Tiesto, and amazing song, pretty solid lip sync, no riggory. So let's move on to the third episode, which was the girl groups. It was another non-elimination episode, and nothing was rigged here. There was a very clear best team and worst team. Team Cara Melle was the best. They just obviously had all the dancers and like the queens who were like really good at this. So like naturally they were going to be better than the group of like misfits, for lack of a better word, and Naomi, who was injured and on crutches. Yeah, the top two of Cara Melle and Tamara Thomas. Yes, it's like definitely storyline that like they're roommates and friends. So like having them be the top two and lip syncing against each other is like a fun moment. But I don't think it was rigged. I think they both did really, really well and sold like the girl group energy. And they all did really well. So Cara Melle beats Tamara in the lip sync, which I agree. And it was a nice little redemption moment from her first episode kind of lip sync hindrance. And yeah, so far not much riggory. That will change as you go into the next episode, which is the disaster class episode. Now, very clear top three. The group of Ginger and Michael and Tamara, they killed this. Them three getting the win makes sense to me. We're good to go. In the actual episode, then, for the other two groups, they kind of just like pick and choose who's going to be top, who's going to be bottom. But I think there was a very clear bottom team who should have just all been in the bottom. And Naomi Carter, who struggled definitely, should not have been bottom two. Like, I don't think she did as bad as the bottom three, and I don't think her runway was as bad as someone else in the bottom three. So I think Naomi Carter definitely was sent home here because probably she was injured. She just wasn't giving, I think, what they were expecting. And they liked everyone else a little bit more who was in danger. So sending Naomi home here just kind of like made sense to them. But I think that Team Banksie and Cara Melle and Vicky Vivacious for sure should have been the bottom three. And the bottom two 1000% should have been Vicky and Cara Melle. Now Banksie as the what do you call it? The person who's like leading? The narrator? No. The prompter? No. The leader? There's like a word for it where you're like leading the conversation. I cannot think of it. But she was that bitch. She was that girl. And Banksie, she definitely let her team down in some aspects by like apparently like switching things up and just kind of like riffing at moments. But also she had the best jokes and was the most funny by far of the three, and her look was stunning and my favorite of the three. So I think that Banksie for sure should have just been low. And we get a bottom two of Cara Melle and Vicky Vivacious, two of our winners. Kind of stressful. Vicky was so saved. I mean, we talk about this in the riggory episode. Her runway, golden boot of the season. She was like putting on such a character in the panel, and she was just kind of like cringe. But I think they really liked Vicky, and I think that Vicky did have more to show, which we see in the next episode. That, spoiler alert, she won't be there for, because her and Cara Melle lip sync to The Only Way Is Up, which Cara Melle did so well in this lip sync. And Vicky, we've seen, I mean, obviously she beat Cara Melle in the first episode, but she gets beat later on as well. I think that she's really great. I just don't think that she has the stage presence that Cara Melle has. I don't think most people on this cast, almost anybody on this cast, has the same stage presence that Cara Melle has. And Cara Melle was fighting to stay here. So I think we would unfortunately say goodbye here to Vicky Vivacious a couple of episodes before she went home in the actual season. And that means we have Naomi Carter here for the Rusical, the Panto Rusical, which was a really fun challenge, a amazing Rusical. And I don't think anything changes in this episode. I think that Ginger Johnson as the cow was super funny. I think she deserved her win here 1000%. And I think that Naomi would take Vicky's place in the top. I don't know who she plays. I don't know if roles kind of switch around, but I don't think she would take like a super dancey role or a super like main character. So taking something like Vicky's, who was like there, but wasn't like super, it wasn't like the most like intense role of the Rusical as the girlfriend of Michael Maruli's character. I don't remember what her name was. I think Naomi could play that, and I think she would do fine. Naomi is like I think she's a good performer. I think that she has a lot of personality. I think that in the comedy challenges, she struggled a little bit, but everything else on the design, like that was a struggle. But she's a great performer, and this is a performing challenge. So I have full faith in Naomi Carter in this challenge. I think she would be good. I think she would be like probably top 4, like Vicky Vivacious was. And then the bottom 2, I mean, really, Naomi just has to do better than Dee and Banksie. And like, I could see people saying that like, Dee wasn't that bad. Like Dee might have done better, and like maybe Naomi would have been in the bottom. But I think that Naomi could do better than Dee did. So I think that Dee and Banksie in the bottom 2 unfortunately makes sense. And unfortunately, that means we're losing Banksie to I Dreamed a Dream. There's like certain things where I'm like, ooh, I hope that when I put this together, like this queen ends up going further. And Banksie is like one of those. And then when I was doing it, I'm like, no, she still goes home. So unfortunate. Love Banksie. But this was unfortunately her time. And Naomi makes it another episode. And this episode is the Snatch Game. So how would things go? Now, this was an episode that I was really struggling to judge because I don't think many people did well. This was not a great Snatch Game. I think that Ginger, I personally, my American ass, did not find funny. I feel like I got who the character was supposed to be. I got the references, but I didn't laugh. So I don't know if that is just like a cultural thing, and maybe if that is so, then just shut my ass up and whatever. But for me, I didn't laugh. And her runway this episode also was not good. So for me, it was between Tamara Thomas and Kate Butch on who was going to win this episode. They both kind of took a lot of creative liberties in their performances in the Snatch Game. Tamara was Robin Williams and Kate Butch was Kate Bush. But really, they were just Tamara Thomas and Kate Butch. So it was kind of like, okay, who do I find funnier in general? Tamara. And whose runway was better? Tamara. So I would give the win to Tamara probably, but this is an episode where like there was no clear winner. There was no one that I was like, oh, they for sure deserve to win. I don't think Ginger should have won. I get why people think Kate should have won, but I also don't think Kate was like the funniest. I laughed the most at Tamara because she's just insane, like literally insane. And she tried stuff, like she took risks, and I can appreciate that. It was not a conventional Snatch Game character by any means, but I think that it was still very funny, and she had one of the best looks on the entire runway. So I'm okay with saying Tamara could have won this challenge over Ginger. And I also would have put Cara Melle on the top. I think that Cara had a really good runway. I think that her Dionne Warwick was really, really good. And I think that this was like a nice little redemption moment for her after like a couple like rocky episodes. So I would put Cara in the top as well. That means that our bottom 3 is Dedelicious, Naomi, I keep wanting to say Naomi Campbell. Naomi Carter, and Michael Maruli, who were all varying levels of not great. I think that Michael Maruli leaned into the more like cringe, and I think Dee leaned into more of the just like giving nothing, like just no jokes whatsoever. Looking at Naomi in the comedy challenge that she did, I don't think would have done that great either, and probably would for sure be in the bottom 3, unfortunately. But who would I save? I think Michael Maruli, with this look, and the fact that she did do like 2 characters and like there was a transformation, like I can appreciate that even if it wasn't funny. So I think Michael would have been just low, and then we get a bottom 2 of Dedelicious and Naomi Carter, lip syncing to Heartbreak on Hold. Now, this was like Dedelicious's like breakout moment of the season, because like the last time she lip synced, it was to a ballad, which is like she was great, but it's just not what like I think she does normally, like what she's known for as a performer. This was her episode. She might have looked wild and not great in that look, but she served in that lip sync. And I think this would have been Naomi's time to go. So I think more weeks with her would have been great. She was so funny. Her accent was like everything to me. She was so endearing, and I wish we would have gotten to know more about her. So like this would be a nice time for Naomi to like go home. Like we got a lot of personality, we got a lot of time, but she isn't like front runner status. So, now's her time, and now we can focus on the people who are like could actually win this season for real. The next episode is the acting duo challenge, where they're each doing like this like soap opera skit of like two women who are like fighting over some man, and it goes horribly wrong. And there was definitely, I think, a clear top two. It was Ginger Johnson and Kate Butch. But I think that Kate winning solo makes sense here. I think she did a little bit better than Ginger. And I think that like Ginger had been winning a lot. And this was a nice moment for Kate to just have her moment. Not everything needs to be a double, triple win. I think that some people disagreed with me, but I'm still sticking with my standing that Tamara and Dee Dee did great. The final product was great. It might have been a mess in the recording process, but I think they were both super funny in the actual skit. And that leaves Cara Melle and Michael Maruli in the bottom, just like in the actual episode. And shockingly, Cara Melle is sent home by Michael Maruli. And that leaves us with our top five, which is the same top five from the actual season, as they get into the makeovers. So, if you've seen the rigor video, you know what I'm gonna do. Ginger Johnson, the legend that you are, you ate this up. I'm not the same person that I was before I saw this makeover. I'm forever changed. And I just want to thank you for that. Like, thank you from the bottom of my heart for giving us this. Michael Maruli, you did good. Solid job. High placement. But Ginger Johnson, Ginger Johnson, the woman that you are. Tamara Thomas, I think, should have been low. I think she was just safe in the episode. But I think that the hair on her makeover partner was especially not great and should have been pointed out a little bit more than it was. But everything else, the looks, the performances, the cohesion, everything else was great. It was just that one thing, but it was big enough that I think it takes her from like high or safe to low. But our bottom two is still going to be Dedelicious and Kate Butch, who I think we're just trying some like higher concept things. Like, oh, we're going to be sisters going to a party in 1987 together. Or, oh, we're in Greece for some reason. And this was the best lip sync of the season. Could it have been a double save? Yes, it could have been a double save. But we don't have room for a double save. So Kate Butch, I'm so sorry. Dedelicious, this was your best lip sync of the season. It was so good. And we're at our top four. And spoiler alert, nothing changes here. I think that Michael was so good in this episode, in this roast. Ginger was also really good, but just a hair not as good as Michael. And that just leaves Tamara and Dee Dee, who both did a good job, but unfortunately someone's got a lip sync. And this is where we lose Dedelicious. Now, for the top three, they do a music video, they do a runway, and I think this is where it's like difficult because I'm thinking about like Canada 4, where we had Venus and we had Aurora Matrix. Now, Venus had the better track record when it comes to like dusted or busted score, and like she was never in the bottom. Aurora Matrix had more moments on the season. Like Venus was consistently high or safe, but I don't necessarily remember Venus in many challenges. Whereas like Aurora had many standout episodes. So then when it came to the finale and Aurora did better in the finale, I had no problem giving the win to Aurora because like even if her track record wasn't as good, she had more wins. And I think overall in the season, she just made a bigger impact on me. Just me judging this video on my channel, just for me. So I felt okay giving the win to Aurora there. This episode is hard because Michael knocks everything out of the park. She was my favorite in the challenge. She was my favorite in the runway. She was my favorite in the final lip sync. So do I give the win to Michael? I don't know. And I think in this case, I truly would be fine with either of them winning. Literally either of them winning. But here, Ginger has the better track record and never lip synced and had, I think, more, like equal if not more standout moments than Michael on the season. Where like in this case, like Michael was in the bottom three more than on the season. It's really hard. I'm going to give the win to Ginger because she did have the better track record and it just like felt right. But it's not a perfect science. And If Michael won, cool. I would have loved that too. Either of them are great. I think they are the very clear top two of the season. Tamara Thomas, fantastic. I hope we see her 30 more times, but I think that these two really just gave more on the season itself consistently. But like looking at the track record, it was really close. It was really close between these two. And so maybe you're a person who says, it's close enough that it comes down to the finale. And Michael did better in the finale, so Michael should win. And I would say, yeah, that's fine by me. Or maybe you're someone who says, Ginger had a better track record and gave more consistency over the entire season, so Ginger should win. And I would say, that checks out. I'm cool with that too. So I'm gonna keep it on Ginger because I like Ginger. I'm fine with Ginger winning. I was happy for her. But if someone in the comments is like, it should have been Michael Maruli and you, I would have been like, I don't know why you're mad, because I would be fine with that. I would be fine with Michael Maruli winning. But it would be hard to ignore everything that Ginger Johnson did on the season. I mean, she truly ate. And like maybe not all of her runways were top tier like Michael's were, but she just gave so much in so many different aspects. So that's how I feel. Sorry. I wish I had a more... Here's the thing. If I would have said Ginger 1000% won, everyone would be, oh my gosh, fuck you, Michael. And if I would have said 100% Michael won, people would have been like, fuck you, Ginger. Like, so who cares? This is a fake video, and I'm fine with either of them winning. Double win? Double win, sure. But that is the end of this video and the end of the UK5 coverage. Amazing season. So happy that I watched it, that it brought me back into Drag Race. And now I'm so excited to keep talking about season 16. So listen to the podcast. I have one with Kayla Says on season 16 and one with Michael. I was Michael Maruli. One with Matt. My brain today. Who knows? Matthew Belak Boy. We have one on UK versus the world. So I'll put that in the description as well. That is available on wherever you listen to podcasts. And they're both doing so well. Like, the podcast has never gotten this many listens before, so thank you all. Reminder, Google form, help me in the next video. Let's see what the best design looks of all time are. And I think that's all. Thank you to everyone who watched. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed so that we can get to that 75K. And thank you all so much for watching. I will catch you all in the next one.